Díomh am rannóna chuirde tá fáidirómh go dtí an talach I gunta an chláras mis seán ó gábhín. Agus seo an cúigur an déag atá déanta bio a gcuin. This is our 15th class that we've delivered live ó gúna na scoilna since the schools were closed. Agus inniu be mi t-urú chuirsaí gramadig. Ní warag sé ráda. Won't go on too long. Hopefully today will be done and dusted at about 12:30 all gone well. Tróna bra arigatá can doubt it's a beautiful spring afternoon on shop. It gunta an chláras tá sulgum gwish mar sin livse. Okay, Kevin's asking a question here about doing the strat and stuff like that. The strat is for the 5th years, and it's 5th year course going to be going up very shortly, Kevin, which you'll be able to do. So there'll be a whole heap of stuff on that for 5th years in the next week. So I'll be able to buzz you or send you a text on that, okay? Akenyu, for everyone, this is a really simple lesson, but my God, the difference it will make to you in terms of basic accuracy around your general writing, whether we're talking about your prose, your filiots, your capitorots, gachin, gneid and chorsa. Every element of the course is going to be helped by this. So if you're coming into this now live, or you're coming back at a later point, or you want to review this lesson, you're coming looking at this in a couple of years even, this lesson will help you enormously. And it's all about crinus. Now, I'm not going to go through an exhaustive list of every single possibility when it comes to an t-urú agus an séimhiú. I've decided I'm going to focus on the main thing today is at the start of a noun. That's what I really want to focus on and get that bit right, because some people will get really confused if I start applying it onto the adjectives as well, in the case of the séimhiú in particular. So we're going to start with an urú, and we're going to look then at a séimhiú. In each of these we're looking at 7 instances of an t-urú and 6 different situations around an séimhiú. Now séimhiú is quite a bit more exhaustive than that, it's quite more extensive than that. So this will not be an exhaustive list today, just so we're clear on that, because there is more work that'll be at a later point. Okay, Dove Shud and nach raibh an seo hana féin, for those who weren't here before. All of the notes you can get here in the link underneath. If you click underneath, courses.Leavingcertirish.com. And as this is actually going to be our last live class until the 20th of April, you might want to keep progressing with some of the work that we'll be doing in the structured revision course. So we'll be going through some poetry, more essays, and there's going to be plenty more work for people to do in their structured revision course, those who are subscribers. It's only €50. It used to be 150, so it's huge value, and you will not get anything better, I can guarantee, in terms of content and quality with all these other revision courses that are all of a sudden going online. I can guarantee you the quality will not be what I'm offering you here. Okay, so if you haven't already downloaded your notes, you just go in, you clicked on the PDF in your course section, and away you go. Alright, so urú ar húslitar an animokil. So I suppose, does anyone actually know, and this will be a bit of fun, does anyone actually know what the word urú means? Has anyone any idea what an urú actually means? There is a term for it, asperla, and I'd be very interested to know, can anyone type in the text or send a text letting us know cadasbrila, urú and séimhiú. You know, you hear these phrases, you're probably in the back of the class all day long, you're going, oh God, what is this? You know, you've heard it forever, but you've just probably got no idea cadasbrila, what does it actually mean? So I'm just waiting here in the chat, and we'll see, does anyone actually know cadasbrila, séimhiú, no urú, what are we actually dealing with here? And just waiting for the text, which is about 10 seconds behind where my speech is here, guys, or my audio, to see what people think this is. And then we'll crack on. As I say, we've got 7 examples of the urú here that will help you, and we've got very good, we have a winner, Sarah, Eclipsis, very, very good. And séimhiú then, funnily enough, some people do know, and very good, language of football, is Lanishan for a séimhiú, exactly. And to be honest with you, do either of those things really matter? No, what matters is, can you apply them? Can you actually show how they're used? So let's get straight into it. Urús. With an urú, we are basically talking about 7 letters. Now, I kind of on purpose didn't write this in, but I'm kind of regretting it a small bit now. I didn't write it in because I like to actually talk through this. So just before we get into it, there are 7 letters in the language where an urú on a consonant applies. So the 7 letters are B goes to MB, C goes to GC, that's one you all probably know very, very well. A D changes into ND, right? F is a very well-known one as well, goes to BHF. Then G goes to NG. P goes to BP. And T goes to DT. Alright, so there are 7. We've got 7 urús. And there are lots of different situations where to use. I'm going to focus on 7 situations now for the urú. And the reason I start with the urú is because if I knock out all of these possibilities, well, then you know that you can't be putting a H, which is Lanishan or Séimhiú. You won't be using a H in any of these situations, and that helps quite a bit. So, an urú húslitar animokal. And in case you don't know what any of that means on the first letter of a noun. Okay, Tishaginuk off the term. So it's on the first letter of a noun, and the first situation we have here is after the definite article, right? So or after the article. So in this case, we're talking about after the definite article because it's where we use it. Okay, so after definite article is situation number 1. And I also put in here, for those who have some knowledge of this, t-urú, which is in the dative case, right? Now, a case is a situation words like we learned it on t-urú a few days back. So t-urú in the dative case, singular, right? Tuiréis na réimhneacha shimplí, after simple prepositions. So terms like egg, at, on, as, from, etc., etc. You'd be familiar with these, and this is the easiest one to work with. So if we look at examples, oh yeah, very, 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 very important. Ní athrítar D no T. So the letters D or T after egan, asan, leishan, quigan, rivon, any of those, you do not need to use or make any change to D and T. Now D and T are very peculiar letters. We also have this with the t-urú, for example, t-urú, where you don't have t-urú singular, for those who don't know, you don't have a requirement to change the letters D and T. So for example, Doris on T, door of the house, Doris on T, it's not Doris on he or anything like that. And that's a t-urú. Here we're talking about t-urú after a simple preposition. So egan galin, eran bork, right? Let's just go through them and you see each one, and you can see the urú in effect with all these. So egan galin, car nua egan galin, the girl, you said the new girl. You could say the new girl has a car. So tá laur egan galin, I don't know what's after happening there. Tá laur egan galin, the girl has I do see what's after happening there. Right, I'm after making a mess of that now, guys. Sorry, give me 1 second before my screen goes crazy. Gonna get rid of all that. I see I've just made a mess of all that. Okay, my apologies. I just made a mess of everything. I hit a record feature on my application here and the whole thing went schizo. Let's just go back to where I need to be though. What we need to do is look at where the changes are made. So egan galin, tá laur no egan galin, tá an réitor an bork. Now here's an example of T where it's not changed. Do you see that? So han shemak as an chak, he came out of the house. Vishe an riven var, he was there before the man. Vishe nenat leshan mukul, or han she nenat leshan mukul, he came with the boy. Hitchemak on gofra, it fell out of, right? So you see O plus an becomes on, right? So just watch out for little things like that. Leimhiú Haran Lee, he jumped over the ditch. So like most people, Tumlach na Nina, Tumlach na Nalti, Vechistachanya, most people would know that example of the uru, or at least I'd hope you would. Now there are some dialectal differences. For example, in the north, they'll be using a Séimhiú, where you would traditionally, in this instance, use an uru. So just watch out for that, especially in the Leavingcertirish or indeed Eclipsis, Bigi Cormac Leshen. Be careful with that. But on Gná Iram, the usual normal format that you will come across on Gaeilge Caidanta and on Grammar Caidanta, the standardized version would be using these examples. Okay, well, in case again, on Shin, everyone okay with that? Now there's going to be loads of examples we go through, so don't ask me stuff like, what if, because you're going to see all the what ifs now in a minute. But it's clear enough, or hopefully should be clear enough, that when you're using egg on, so the crucial thing is that you're using the definite article, which is on. Okay, so that's the most important thing, where you're using any of these simple prepositions with on following them. That means they're not in the Tishaginaruk. And the Tishaginaruk, we know there are 6 situations where we've got in Tishaginaruk. If anyone would like to write into the text what those 6 situations are, let's just test your knowledge. Do you know on the fly, without looking at your notes, what are the 6 situations that I gave you of the Tishaginaruk? Alright, Lana Mida Raig, Goody and Kate Cos Ella. Alright, Cos Ado on Shin. Uru or Huslit or Animukal Rish, so an uru or eclipsis on the first letter of a noun, and this is a big one. This is a huge one, right? Because this is the one that causes probably the most confusion. The Tishul Ginaduk Iver Ulra. Ulra means plural. So in the Tishul Ginaduk plural, this is where people start to go wrong. It's actually really easy to identify on Tishul Ginaduk Siniver Ulra, because you will always have this feature. Now, I mentioned it last week when we were going through some of our previous examples. So every one of these, as you can see, so Shleev Naman, Hati Navar, Kjol Nanen, Egoskult Navoinog, Emas Nanina, Turmi Nanalti, Glor Nadun, one of the most beautiful phrases in the language. If you think about it, this is really easy to identify. You need to know what each of the urus are, obviously. But Shleev Naman, that's your MB. This is BHF. With a vowel, people very often don't know what happens with a vowel in the Tishaginaruk plural. It's simply N hyphen. Okay? So, N hyphen is always going to be what's going to be Tishaginaruk Iver Ulra. Egoskult Navinog is what we call Lag Ulra, again BHF. Here we've got Turmi Nanina or something like that. Emas Nanina, Turmi Nanalti, ND, Glor Nadun, DT. Okay, so you see all the different urus are appearing bit by bit with all these examples. And again, the crucial thing here is to know where it happens. So you need to know what the Tishaginaruk is. We've covered that already extensively. So Tishaginaruk, Iver Ulra, plural. It's another situation, another one of the cases where we use Antaru Sagoega. Okay, so we've looked at 2 situations, Gadisha. We're going to continue, and we're going to have the third case now. Now, Inig Unrevokal I, right? So I or in, with a gutta, I becomes in. So just be careful with that. With a vowel, I suppose, and on is effectively in, right? So just be careful with that. So this applies to whether it's I or in, it's the same situation. You try to put in an uru if possible. So I being, in pain, I jock, in a house, in lushton, in a car, I gahir, in a chair, I bunk, in a bit of a jam or a fix, imlina, this year. You'd know that phrase quite well. So they're easy enough ones. And then in alternate exul or fudnatira might be a phrase, in an essay, in aberti umlana, in full sentences. So I and in, that's easy enough. Thankfully, you don't tend to have a tendency to write in a H or a Séimhiú in this instance. So I is a simple one. Third case, cos over 3, that's done, straightforward enough. Okay. Okay, Quid Ella, Nina Keshe Tiachta Stock, and keep an eye on questions, guys, in case there are any. And I'm trying to run through these as fast as I can. So, Inigna Nadiachti Shalvacha Ulra. Now, key elements here. Possessive adjectives, plural. Now, the Ulra bit is important here because it's the Séimhiú applies in the singular case. So, let's be very, very, very careful. So, our, your, and there. That's basically all you need to know. When you say our, your, or there in Irish, and any noun coming after it, you try to put in the urú if possible. The one we all know or should know, I always talk about this in terms of vowels, right? Is the or nahar, right? Our father, or nahar, tar, navgan, if, dam, etc., etc. Right? You should know that phrase, and that's the one to remember with the vowels. If you know that, it takes away a lot of the uncertainty, right? So, our jock, our house, our jock. Vor nuris, your door, as in, year door. In Ireland we use the term year rather than your a lot, don't we? So, agofri, their presses. Our bork, our field. Vor galoshe, your college. Abeen, their pens or their pencils. If you're talking about Pion Louis. So, our nahar, our father. Vor nuncle, your uncle. Anantin, their aunt. So again, urú is used where possible in this simple situation, but most importantly, it's got to be or it's got to be plural of the possessive adjective. So our, your, and their, and on we go. So sin cos a car. All right, K Caunella. Urú ar húslitar animokul inigna nivracha. So this one we should all know again. Hopefully you know. Shach nina ukbark ne gahir de gat. Dead simple ones here. You're putting in the urú after 7, 8, 9, 10. Ocht, shacht, ocht, ne, mli. We all know the term mlina, don't we? So, shacht mlina deg dish, ocht mlina deg dish, ne mlina deg dish. We all know those, or should know them pretty well. And then for the urú, with a vowel, it's the same principle as previously. You put in the n hyphen. Okay? So that's, again, makes it a bit easier. Tá seach nasas fork. There are 7 donkeys in the park, right? Or in the field. Okay, sin cos cuig agus inis be cos séguin. So this one in aberty or less. So in specific situations we use an t-urú. So here we have phrases like dús, noig, of course, cá vistit, how do you know? Govistum, to the best of my knowledge. Gúl, behind. So there are a couple of eshkachti, we call these, couple of exceptional, particular examples where we use it as well. Okay, sin cos sé agus inis, and count Ernach, and the final one then is where I actually see the greatest number of errors, believe it or not, is with verbs. This is a constant issue, and if I could highlight 2 in particular, knock and go. This is really, really important you get this. So knock and go effectively translate into English as that, where something that is or that will be when you're using a verb. And I see huge issues with this. So I'll show you a couple of examples now in a second. But inigna mirna no konask, after the particles or conjugations such as, so these 4 here, these 4 here are what we call particles mirna. So an, nak, go, and ko, and da and mar, what we call konask or conjugation. So examples of this are an gahan sé mór an ama harlar, like does he spend much time abroad? Durchilum nach dogan shargad done gasu, he says he doesn't give money, that he doesn't give money. So when you're asking a question, you're using an urú normally. Nach dogan, when you're replying in the negative present tense, nach dogan she. Go meg she, that he will be. Ka vort, when you ask a question, where did you get? If da bosok mokanilok, if he married. Mora she, if he doesn't get, if he will not get. Mora da, if they, and that's what happens with the vowel again. So like basically the simple way of thinking about the guti is like an n hyphen is like your vowel, or sorry, is like your urú for your guti. Jukadish if they were to come. So good examples of da if they were to come. Now can I just show you very quickly? Let's take a simple verb you all know, right? Fain she, he gets. So fain she cúna von rialtas, he gets help from the government, right? Or she is, right? Whichever you want to go. Here's how you would say that he gets. You say go fain she. Now it is unbelievable how many people aren't able to do this fain she or nach fain she, right? It is unbelievable how many people just constantly write these verbs as if they're normal verbs without any need for a change. After go or after knock, you have to put in an t-urú. And this is one of the most common mistakes that people make. They say dúirtelam go fain she or nach fain she mór an cúnamh ón stát or something like that. It's such a pity because it absolutely destroys that verb. It's so wrong and such a simple thing to change and something that you really should know going back a couple of years. Alright, so Shin Kos shocked. How are we doing here, guys? Is this beginning to make some sense? Hopefully it's clarifying a few bits and pieces for you. Obviously I want to go on now to the Séimhiú and try and make sure that we can get some of the issues around on Séimhiú correct. But I feel that, and I find certainly with students, that if they know and understand an t-urú dús, if you understand the use of an t-urú, or otherwise known as Eclipsis, as we found out at the start, that is the first step. If you can figure out where you need to use that or not use that, that begins to make an impact. Okay, Ceart galore. Right, land me the right. Ein Kesha, any questions? Nach nuairt me lads, excellent example actually, Sheila. Yeah, nach nuairt me, excellent example. Didn't I say it to you? So we'll move on now to an Séimhiú, which is using a H effectively for most people. That's what you know it to be. This is not an exhaustive list. Now we're going to look at 6 examples, just looking at the first letter of nouns. That's where I want to focus today. I don't want to get stuck into the whole adjective thing because believe me, you're going to have some serious crack with that as we move on. Anwa Ahurka, brilliant. Hopefully it's helping. So let's crack on to the next bit, which is a Séimhiú húslitar animukal, the Séimhiú on the first letter of a noun. Okay, so we were looking at previously in all the previous charts we were looking at t-urú húslitar animukal, but now we're looking at Séimhiú. So Ínta Kieran, delighted to hear that. So let's take a look at the one that causes all the trouble. Now I've put particular emphasis on Buinisc here. And I'm just going to say to anybody who's here or who's coming in now after this session, looking at this, you really need to go back and do my lesson on Tishal Ginaduk. Mastering the basics of the Tishal Ginaduk, you've got to, or mastering Tishal Ginaduk, you've got to look at that. It takes an hour, but believe me, it's the best hour you're ever going to spend studying the Irish language for the simple reason that it will clarify what the hell the Tishal Ginaduk is. It will make it so clear to you. All of a sudden, you'll be able to look at all this new language or new grammar stuff that I'm doing and terminology in a new way or a new light. So Buinisc is the key thing here. After the article, so we've already referred to the article as basically in the Irish language we're talking about on, right? The definite article. After the definite article, nuairtán animukal a lanane, when the noun that follows it is Buinisc. So this is, I suppose, lesson 101. If you don't know this, you're goosed. You've got to figure this one out. If it is feminine, okay, in case anyone has any doubts at all. If it is feminine, singular, and in either what we call the Tishal Amnuk or Tishal Cusborg, but what that crucially says is not in the Tishal Ginaduk, okay? Not in the Tishal Ginaduk for a feminine noun, okay? So we put a H on the first letter if it is feminine but not in the Tishal Ginaduk. I cannot emphasize that enough, okay? So tá an van as láthar, the woman is absent. Tá an inog dúnta, the window is closed. Níl an fictarlin ar oscail, the cinema is not open. Faoi láthair, alas. Beg
Arbai an rian ag tanov, the sun will be shining. Tá an chisten dúnta aine a ví a charú rih. You know well, an chisten is an tachtarna tihé a town, and it's the famous pub in Carrow. An chisten, so tá an chisten dúnta fí láthair frír alas agus tá an ruig dove. Every single one of those phrases, if you look up those nouns in the dictionary, you will see they are all feminine, right? Every one of them are feminine, and they are all using a shevu in a simple sentence. So what is this tishul amnach tishul cusborg? This is what we call the nominative or objective case. So always think of simple situation. In this case, the Tisha Amnach, the woman is absent. She is the subject of the sentence, subject of the sentence, should I say. So she is very, very, very clearly the only noun that you have to worry about here in this sentence, if that makes sense, right? So simple nominative or objective case, you just want to be looking at simple changes here. Tisha Ginruk, as we know, there's 6 instances of it. It requires other changes. But right now, we're talking about a feminine noun in a simple situation, not connected to any other word, and the noun takes a H, right? That's the first one. If you can get that into your head, you're a long way down the road towards helping you to make the necessary changes. Then, that's Casa Hain. If it is masculine in Casa Do, and singular and in the Tishul Ginuk. So with feminine, if you remember, we were not in the Tishul Ginuk with the feminine one here, right? But with this masculine noun, it is singular, but it is in the Tishul Ginuk. So that's the crucial bit, really. That's the difference. It needs to be in the Tishul Ginuk. If it's not in the Tishul Ginuk for a masculine noun, it doesn't apply. So masculine, Tishul Ginuk, and also when it's in the Tisha Ginaruk, D and T don't change. So hata on ir, masculine word, on far. Now I keep talking about on far, on van. As you can see, for example, if we go back here and we said tá on far as láthar, right? Let's say that was our sentence. Tá on far as láthar. It'll be tá on far as láthar. There's no H there. If it's woman, it's feminine noun, it has a H. But in a nominative case, tá an far as láthar, the man is absent, there's no H there. But when it goes into its Tisha Ginaruk format, it requires a H after the article. Okay? So in yig an als, after the article is on, it needs to get this H put into it, and the change EA goes to I as a standard, what we call declension change. So hata an ir, tá hata an ir bon, or something like that. The next one. Keikionella, da an void. Ismalam da an void shin. I like the colour of that boat. So it would normally be simply on board, right? And you'd know that from saying it enough. Ta an bank dunta. Runche doris an wink. He closed the door of the bank. So the phrase normally is on bank, B-A-N-C, right? Horlashe tusan chogi. So a koga, as you know, is a war. So now it's got a H in it. Tá an chisten dúnta. Now, does anyone see anything wrong here, guys? Or would anyone like to point out what's wrong here? Okay, I've put this in here for a specific reason. Anyone want to point out what's going on here? I'll be very interested to see, are we paying attention or not? So, tá an chisten dúnta. Anyone know what the issue is there? All right, if you could just type in the text, I'll give you a second so you catch up with what my voice is saying here, and we'll put up the chat and see does anyone actually come up with the correct answer here. So cad atá cear an seo, what's wrong here? Would anyone like to say? Just wait and see what comes up here now in the text. Hopefully someone has spotted what's going on here. Just keeping you on your toes, guys. It's always a good idea just to get you to stand back and take a look for a second. Nisha Sakoshin, yeah, there's a little bit more than that. It's not in the Tisha Ginnock, okay, right? That's very good. First point, it's not in the Tisha Ginnock. Second point is, it is a feminine noun. Yes, it's feminine. So this couldn't be in this situation because we have a this can only be for masculine nouns in the Tisha Ginnock. The first point that was made by Eva was, it isn't in the Tisha Ginnock. Tá an Chisten Dunta. That's not a case of the Tisha Ginnock, right? It's not like Ga and Mukala Kale, it's not an Egan and Vrihar, it's not Shelev, it's not Kaniocht, it's none of those things, right? So that phrase is not in the Tisha Ginnock. It is correct. The actual sentence is correct. Tá an Chisten Dunta would be perfectly fine. If you come back here, you see it's from the previous chart, isn't it? Right? So Tá an Chisten Dunta. It is correct. The full statement is correct. It doesn't belong to this case though, okay? So it's put in there as an outlier, or not even an outlier, should I say. It's put in there to catch you out. It clearly is not one, okay? Good. The next one, very same situation if anyone was really paying attention, right? Tá an Gruid Dove. If you look at it, it's also here, right? So just try and keep you on your toes, guys. So neither of those situations are masculine in the singular of Tish and Gero. Neither of them. Okay, so they're gone. And that's what I need you to do. Become really analytical when you're going through this work. All right, Gahan Skippy. Egduna on Durish, however, is in the Tish and Gero. I have a star here because Ni Vito, you do not put a Shevu and D and T. So loads of people come back with this phrase here, D and T, very often. When I go through these sessions, people come back and say, well, what about D and T, or a Guskelt on T, or, you know, Far on T. We all know Far on T, right? The man of the house, right? Far on T. So if it's a publican or something like that, Far on T. Okay? People know these phrases very well. Egduna on Durish. Egduna Nafrinoiga is a different one, feminine. But Egduna on Durish, you should know, is closing the door. So what happens? In terms of a Shevu, there's no H goes in on D and T. Alright? Kekiaunella. Cause a tree. Inig. Now this is probably, and I'd be guilty of this myself, you'd be constantly checking back on these because very easy to make mistakes with these. Den, dun, sa, san. What is san? San is simply a version of sa plus on, okay? And we drop the A from the on because you can't have those two vowels come together. So den, dun, san and sa. Hitche den crown requires the H. Hokshe Laur dun Khali gave a book to the girl. So de or den is like off of, from something, okay? Leimshe stock sanariga. Now you will see that written as savariga as well, so just that's a dialect issue, but anyway, the standard version is what we're going with for today. Sachahar, vishe sachahar, inye or rare. That's easy. Sa is a very easy one, I think. You know, most people get that one right, okay? San erach, you'd know this one well. So if it's a vowel, very simply, nothing happens, right? So if it's a gota, nothing happens. Vowel, 0. Nothing happens. You don't have to make any change. Imoikshe sanor, he will go away. So chukikshe sanarach, imoikshe sanor, it's a nice one to try and remember. He will come in the spring and he will go in autumn, right? Vi Sheila Sahar in the car, easy. Dun Vadra, he gave food to the dog. All right. So this is an easy one again to correct. Anywhere you see den, dun, san, sa, it's easy to go back, check your work in your ASHT or whatever it might be, make the corrections. And something I was asked a question about last week, someone sent me a message, was, you know, does it look bad or is it a bad idea to be correcting over is it a bad idea to be correcting over your work? You know, it's never a bad idea to correct your work. It mightn't look particularly nice now. You want to try not to have it a complete dog's dinner at the end of it. You need to have it nicely written where possible. But this is about practice, I suppose, now, rather than, you know, practicing this stuff when you're not going to become a grammar expert on the day of the exam. It's now you need to be making the corrections to work. Lily's a very good question. What's the difference between sa and it?
Depends on the context, really. Like, it is more like in something, but sat is like in there, right? So it or in, and it plus on can also be in there. So it depends on the context. Certain words use sat, some use it. And I've given examples of the a ones. If I could just go back to there, with the t-urú. The most important difference, though, Lily, is that one requires an t-urú and the other one requires a séimhiú. And that's, I suppose, the really big thing for me. Whichever you're using, that you use the correct séimhiú or t-urú as required. So for me, that's the really big thing, Lily. If you get that point, that one requires a séimhiú and one requires an t-urú, while they both mean in or in the, effectively in or san. Like in particular is used only with a vowel, right? So you don't use in, for example, in Chathair, right? You wouldn't say that. But bhí sé sa Chathair, he was in the city, or you know what I mean? So that might be a good example. If you think of the word Chathair, it would help you. One requires an t-urú, one requires a séimhiú, and try to stay on top of that one if possible. Okay, Kate Count Ella. We're getting there, guys. We've another 3 to get through here and we'll be done. This, again, after simple prepositions, or after these prepositions, should I say, de, do, fui, mar, o, riv, etc. Now, there are a few exceptions here that don't always apply, right? Ergon, either, and har. And I tried to give you some examples here of ones that you would normally be doing. Okay, so harle sé de himpiste. So try to use phrases that you would know, right? It happened by accident. De himpiste. Hugharige do hara ella. That's an easy one. To another friend. Fui, I always think, is an easy one. Fui vrú. Now be very, very careful, because fuin requires an t-urú. So just be really careful with that, right? Because fui on is fui on. That's tishu torok. Fuin or fui on. So be careful with that. So fui vrú, vishe or tasha fui vrú. We all know that one. Fossiú mar cheanra, he was employed. Mar vanastor, as a manager. Mar cheanra, as a leader. Okay, so that mar means as, not because. And don't make a mistake there with using, for example, mar followed by a verb, which means because. You know, mar vishe aslar, because he was. Just be very careful you don't start putting in séimhiús for no reason there. O vaden go hiha. So o vaden go hiha, phrase you know, from morning till night. Riv yera on lay, before the end of the day. Vrish she trivala on tea, he broke through the wall of the house. Beisher shul umhranona. I'm always saying tafal to roiv umhranona. Oh, sorry. I didn't go back. Sarah Gurmagas and Paul, or Paula, should I say, Tobroner. I'm sorry I didn't have it back on the screen I wanted. So thank you for sending that in. Very helpful, Gurmagiv. So I'll just go back again, just very quickly. You can see these. I've marked them out. Horshe de himpiste, dochara ela, fui vrú, marchianra, ovaden gahiha, Rivieran le trivala umhranona. Okay, and then the examples of the ones that aren't always used are vor nasraha, right? Not always after dina ganwa. Okay, either vyog is vor, between big and small. Agus nilsha. This is a phrase a lot of you know actually. Nilsha harvala berta. It's no great shakes. It's like wouldn't be something you'd recommend, etc., etc. Okay. So a phrase that you've probably seen before, Níl Harvala Berta, perhaps in the case of Porrick McCorrick or something like that. All right. Right, Gá Ceann 2 more left. I've thrown a couple of these together now rather than separating them out as individual examples, because we'd be here forever going through individual examples. So I've tried to give 5 or 6 or 7 very quick ones that will help you. So one that you may or may not know about is Inig Namira Garmi. Now, Namira Garmi means the vocative particles, right? I'll put this another way. When you're calling somebody, right, it's known as Antisha Garmach, right? So it's another case. So when you're calling or addressing somebody.
So you'd say ahioin, ahila. Now the good news for you guys is your Beltriel is heart, but is like about. It's about, around, pranona. So ahioin, ahila, ahamosh, ahirna, right? You put in the Séimhiú there always. The next one, mo, do, a, etc. So possessive adjectives, so my, yours, his, etc. These are all singular, right? Uha. So be careful with that. So we had orvor and a earlier. Be very careful. So mochiaun, dochiaun, achiaun, his, but not for her. Uha and firinchganuk, masculine in the case of his. Okay, so his something, but not her. Okay, and this is really important because, like, if you're talking about her mother, so let's just look at this. So his mother, if you're talking about Sean O'Cahasig, right? His mother is a voher, right? But if you're talking about Maura's mother, as in her mother, it's going to be a moher. Now this is an outrageous mistake to make. If you're doing something like on trial, or you're taking a look at, Lishin, Hurlema book or something like that, it's just like a horrendous error to write down a moher when you intend to say his mother, right? Or worse, when you want to say her mother and you say a voher. It's just, it really looks bad, and I can't tell you how much an impression factor is formed when people do that. A negative impression factor, so be careful. Illa, every other week, every other person. So illa is another phrase that we put a H on, right? Gach illa hiachtin, gach illa gunna. You mightn't be using that a lot, but illa is another example. Okay, and we're nearly there, guys. Another minute to go. Try and get it done in 45. So I've tried to put in 4 or 5 again here, examples. When you're using numbers for counting here, so ein, agus céad, ga, trí ceithre cúig sé, bert, you need the tishaginal plural after bert, bert wuntori, bert fáistí. So let's go through each one. So ein chalin one, that's easy enough. And céad, and that's probably the example that I'd be putting in for most people. And céad, iirecht, and céad law, etc. Now things like what we call the dentals, the NTLS, not getting into all that stuff today, but just again in terms of counting, ga chapel, ga hiachtan, easy. So trí ceithre cúig sé, easy to work with these. You can see they've just got the Séimhiú on each of them, right? You should know those ones. Bert fáistí, always with Bert where possible. You try to put the H in. Agus ba, right? And couple is, in the past tense of that, becomes ba or nor. So ba, am I saving this live? I'm not sure what you mean by am I saving it live. Am I delivering it live? Yes, I'm delivering it live, if that's what you're asking me, Joy. Saving it as in it'll be available to view immediately afterwards once the link goes up on YouTube. Yeah, so these are available. There's dialectal differences all around, Sarah, so yeah, whatever locally is used, go with that. Bagokdur a, right? Baguna intach avian or untach avian is a wonderful person, so bagokdur, baguna is the more common phrase that you'll see though. Baguna intach a. Narvuntur e, wasn't she a teacher? So he was and she wasn't she, right? If you're using those terms, ba or nor. Okay, so guys, Shinne, that's where we are today. We're at the end of this session, just about got it done within the 45 minutes. It's an incredibly important lesson. Has this helped? Let me know. Send me on some feedback. Tell me what you've thought of this. Again, we're back on live at 12 noon starting on Monday the 20th of April. So I'm going to be here every day again between 20th of April up until early June, I'd say, is where we're heading. So for those of you who may be looking to do more, and obviously there are plenty of you trying to do more than what we can do here, you should subscribe to our subscriber course. Go to courses.leavingcertirish.com. It's in the link underneath, if you just in the description.
Click on that, you'll be in for €50. There's going to be some great essays and stuff going up there in the next couple of days. More lessons each day for those who are subscribers the whole way through, and hopefully you will be able to do that, and pass around the word, like share this link to your friends so that they can improve their Gaeilge as well. They'll thank you for it, I'm sure, because this is exactly the kind of stuff that I would be doing with my own students, looking at what needs to be done to improve the quality of your language. That's what this is all about. And if you're not into your grammar, you need to be, because we're going full written paper here, so it's got to be very, very accurate insofar as is possible. You won't get every single thing right, and don't think you need to be a kind of a third level expert all of a sudden. But definitely you need to pay attention to your grammar. And this lesson, I think, should, in a very, very short time, make a dramatic improvement to a lot of what you're doing. We can look another day at what happens with adjectives, and this is where it gets complicated for people, and you don't want to complicate it too much at this stage, Again, it's not supposed to be third level stuff, but there are a couple of good examples that I can give you of where adjectives change and require Séimhiú in particular. That's where we really want to be heading. So Shine Dunlonyo, that's it for today. Bemi Rash and Vihula, I'll be back in the 20th, but as I say, if you think about subscribing, you can go into courses.Leavingcertirish.com and you can take a look at the courses, and you'll be able to subscribe there for just €50. It's the price of one grind, guys, and it'll make a huge difference to what you do. It's the best of stuff, and I'll be working with people in that course up until the beginning of June, or hopefully whenever the exams start, which let's keep the fingers crossed will be sometime in June, at worst early July. I think that's where people want this to go. All right, so Gurmia Magriv tá Harva buich as an gunaf agus an gníomhíocht éagsúil a bhí arsúil inniu, various bits of activity and assistance. Agus súladí feicimid sibh ar an bhithúláil sí the 20th, the VI Bron agus feicimid gachtain eile taobhiste den chósa see the rest inside the course Moscow if required. So gur míl mágah túrara slán go fóil agus beimid a ráis anseo ar an bhithúlá. Slán a great.